Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Hello, Simba.
Hello.
Today, we are following up last week's podcast episode about body connection. And now we're talking about body connection from a masculine perspective, not feminine perspective. We did that one last week.
Correct,
So
we did.
let's dive right in. What would you say, Simba, is the most striking thing that differentiates the feminine and the masculine when it comes to body connection?
Basically, it's the setup of structure that we have that is very different, right? So being physical is a strong way of being connected to your body for a lot of men. You know, like physical labor, working outdoors, being in nature, using your body, right? Because it really gets you out of your head and into connecting to working with something, touching something, molding it, pulling it apart, putting it together. It really goes from mind to body and you make something very tangible, right? So it doesn't become so abstract that I'm up and ruminating in thoughts. I actually feel I'm creating something, I'm doing something physically. So that's, I would say, is one of the main aspects. But also to really feel a connection and caring for something besides yourself, right? Nurturing and actually wanting to take care of something, you know, family members, when people become fathers, or when siblings gets kids or family members or cousins or whatever, it's usually very heart opening, right? That you start to connect to your heart as a man. And I've seen this a lot. My background is in martial arts. I saw a lot of fighters, really good fighters in mixed martial arts. When they got kids, they couldn't continue fighting, right? Because there was no fuel, there was no that competitiveness, that kind of sometimes anger that can drive you into being a good fighter. It wasn't there, right? Kind of starts to dissipate off you, right? Because you start to connect to the heart.
They get all
Then,
mushy.
yeah, you get all mushy. You get all soft.
You don't want to
And
hit
don't get me
everyone.
wrong, you know, you need a balance. You can't be all mushy all the time, right? You need a balance in it. But if you're always hard and always rocky and pushing everyone aside, you know, you're out of balance too. So they usually find the other side, right? I'm in balance. Yeah, they get a little bit mushy, but that's fine.
You've always been a little bit mushy, but what
I am.
what would you say it was the big shift for you when you realized that you started to really go from head to body?
I think the main thing for me, or what comes to me, was TRE.
Mm.
The journey I have and have had with tension and trauma releasing exercises, which is one of the modalities that we teach. It's really about connecting to your body. Like I had a concept of what it means, I had an idea of what it means, I had a habit of what it means. But once your body starts to move and you're not consciously doing it when it comes from your nervous system, something happens to you. You become aware of, this is not my thinking mind moving my body. The body can move without this thinking voice. What is going on, right? And that kind of can start a conflict or confusion, or you feel a lack of control. For me, since I'd done a lot of body work, I was like, oh my God, this is just next level. This is just amazing. Wow, my body's actually talking to me. It's actually doing all of these amazing things. So needlessly to say, I was really involved in it from an early get-go. But I think it was, yeah, going from thinking to feeling and having a tangible way of doing so, a practice that doesn't involve psychology or having to go to an emotion or to a certain memory. It's just like you just drop right into your body and you see the results. It's not like someone asks you, okay, feel your body. And you're like, oh, I have no idea how I feel my body. You get nervous. Here, you actually see your body moving when you relax into it. So it's very tangible. And it kind of ties back to what I said in the beginning, you know, like you create something with your hands, you do something. So it becomes very tangible that you are in your body because you can see something is happening and you feel something is happening.
Because I mean, I also have a little bit of background in martial arts. I mean, not absolutely not to the extent that you have, but we used to train at the same place, and I mean that's how we met. And what I so even though people have been, you know, being very, or men, I would say, men being very physical over a long period of time and being very like successful within, let's say, martial arts, but still living from their head, right? So there's, just because you're physical doesn't mean that you have a strong body connection. But I would say that to be a very good martial artist, I mean, you have to have some level of body connection. But what I saw with you, and it was funny because when I asked you that question, like what big shift did you see in that, instantly it came up for me like, oh, the TRE training, because that's when you really started to go from head to body. And I mean, that was the same for me. So it doesn't really matter if you're a man or a woman, but you know, to really make that shift and allow the body to do the talking. To, it's like when you check in, you go to the body and not to the head. It's like after that training, I could see that it started to become more automatic for you to go to the head instead of the body. And that's when also your biggest transformational shifts started to happen in your personal journey.
And in all areas, right? Like in our relationship, professionally too, how I coach people, where I come from, what I do, how I show up, from what. So it just tied everything together. Once I started to learn about the vagus nerve and the polyvagal theory and how to tie it together to a physical practice, yeah, it was just something very different. You know, the body connection just went instantly a lot deeper. And if I just look at it like it's as a classic or stereotypical kind of male female scenario, I feel men many times want something tangible to relate to. And when you're talking about body connection, it's not always tangible if you're used to being in your head, and if there's a lack of safety to actually allowing yourself to be in your body, because it involves you being vulnerable. And maybe that's not associated with safety. So if it's unknown, it's untangible, and it's not safe, right? You know, you don't have a lot of reasons to actually go into your body. So the TRE gave me all of these things, right? Safe environment, a language to talk within, a container that you can do it, equal-minded people and coaches and teachers, mentors that can allow me to have that space to explore and figure out, you know, I remember like during the training, sometimes I can get really shyless and start playing pranks on people. And I was like, what's going on? What? And I asked my teacher, what is going on with me? And she said, well, safety. You're feeling safety. So you're going back to something that you weren't allowed to feel. You weren't allowed to feel safe doing certain things like that because maybe you were punished. So it was really healing to do so as well, right? Because there's a lot of responsibilities and perceived roles and all of these things that doesn't allow us to be ourselves sometimes in society. So that's really what I felt. It allowed me to be playful, more myself, more in my body. And it really gave me a language and a model that is tangible. It's very, very tangible, because body connection sometimes can be, am I feeling this? Am I not feeling this? Am I imagining it this? It can be somewhere in between when you're in the beginning of the process.
I have an idea of I have a statement that I'm going to say. I haven't it really landed in myself to see if I can stand by this statement 100% fully or not. But here it goes. That it's more difficult for men to come back to the body than women.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, because women have the periods and the cycles and like all the body cramps, and it's like it's yeah, we have a completely different sensation system in our bodies, which men doesn't have.
You're reborn every month, right? You have a rebirth cycle every month, but also the connection, the corpus callosum, the connection between right and left hemisphere, has 30% more neurons 30% more connection in a female brain than in a male brain. So, I mean, you're more prone to be in thinking logical mind and in feeling intuitive mind. Not that right or left hemisphere is completely dominant for that, but if you just use it for simplicity, left side being more analytical and logical and right side being more artistic, creative, and intuitive, if you have 30% more connection between them, of course it's going to be easier for you to be in your body. That's just basic physiology and neurology. You know, it's obviously you're going to do that. And if you add on top of that the menstruational cycle where you really actually physically start to feel shifts in your body, I mean, of course, of course you're going to have a head start when it comes to that.
So do you notice a difference in coaching women and men to coming back to the body?
Definitely.
I mean, it's not everyone. Let's just say that when we generalize now, it's not everyone. So it's not like all men or all women. It's not like that. We're just generalizing here.
Yeah, no, it's
having some fun with it.
It's different, I would say, right? I'm not looking at it as better, worse, easier, and so on. It feels like it comes more natural for women with the body connection, and because it's also allowed to, right? Like it's in society and it's allowed to feel your body and feel your emotions many times, depending on where you grow up, of course, and your family and all of that story. But it's more allowed to many times for women to connect with their emotions. Whereas traditionally for men, you know, don't cry, don't do that, all of these things that, depending on how you're raised, I know that time has changed a lot. And I mean, I wasn't even raised in that way. So although I was raised, hopefully not too long ago in the 80s, but I wasn't even raised. Huh?
Are you not sure?
Not sure. That's the first warning sign. Yeah.
Yeah, not knowing how old you are is a sign of aging.
Or denial.
No, I would say young people know exactly how old they are. They're like 14 and a half.
14 and a half. 39 and a half. Let's put it like that then. No, but like definitely when coaching body connection for women, I would say it's starting to not be that big of a difference because people are getting a lot headier these days, right? So I start to see it in women as well.
Yeah, 100%.
But what I notice is they might have the same vantage point. They might start at the same place, but a woman has a way to coming back faster to the body because I think they already have a module due to what we talked about before, the connection being stronger. I'm not gonna smack the table so much, sorry. The connection between the hemispheres being stronger, and then also the menstruational cycle in general. And that becomes more intuitive, right? Whereas for a man, if it hasn't been safe, if you haven't have a model of connection with it, maybe the first module is puberty, right? For men, when they, you know, have a wet dream the first time and they wake up and they're like, oh my God, what's going on? Or they wake up with, you know, erection and like, well, I didn't do this. What's, you know, your body is calling you. It's telling you something, right? So that's a big part of being connected. And hopefully you have a good teacher or guide that can guide you what to do with that. Otherwise you might run up being guided by that for a big part of your life. And that's also a lack of body connection, that you have an idea of just because my body's doing something, that means I have to, my body's showing me the sign. So that means I have to, instead of actually go into your body and connect and feel what's really there.
I was just going to say that that's the connection, right? That's the real connection, knowing what's actually going on.
Exactly. And not just thinking it's a sexual urge or is this or that, you know, there's so many layers to what's really going on.
And that's what I find is so cool with us being here in Asia and like being here in the East and like Oriental practices. I mean, there's just all of the interesting practices root from over here. So it's just so accessible. But just the fact that they look at sexuality is such a bit different way, like that there's an energy around it, that it's, I mean, as you said, like it's a difference between thinking that I need to act on that, or what is it that actually going on, and that the sexual energy is such a huge part of the life force, and that you can create magic with that energy, and that it's there both for women and women, to act on so many different purposes than just the act of the sexual, that is more westernized, and that it's like it's so put in a box. I had no idea that well, I heard about it, but that it's such a yeah, it's just a different world. It's just so different.
Yeah, it can be very taboo. I think it's connected to religion and upbringing and so on. And also to, I mean, it depends on where you're at in Asia. I mean, in Thailand, they're very open. I think it was the first country in Asia where same-sex marriage, I don't know if it's legal, I'm not going to say that, but I know they're more open to that whole idea. You have the concept with lady boys and all of that. So there is a different way of looking at it, I think, than in a lot of Western countries. Although you might look at a Western country and think a Western country is more open and prone to it. I say both yes and no when it comes to that, but essentially that's not the point. The point is the body connection. I think they have a different vantage point of looking at the body and how to navigate the body. And that's one of the main things that it usually comes down to when you start talking about body connection in men. It usually leads into sexuality for some reason, because there's so much shame, there's so much performance anxiety and identity, and oh, if I have drive, I'm a stud, I'm this, I'm that, and not just condition wise, neurologically, right? That it's part of a biological inheritance to be a good provider of an offspring and so on. So there is a lot of biological events that happens in our body, and if we cannot handle that in an intelligent way, I would say, or in a balanced way, we can create a lot of disharmony, and it can lead to be becoming very intellectualized because it's safer. Logic is safer and it's more pragmatic and it's tangible, whereas understanding all the things that happens in their body and there's no one there to teach us, and maybe even if you ask questions about it, you'll be ridiculed or seen as weak or whatever. You shut down. You just shut down and you don't go there because it's not safe. But I think that's the difference many times with the Oriental, well, some of the countries, the Oriental practices, right? That they see it all as energy work and part of
energy. Yeah. They see it as energy. So there's no shame connected to it. It's very interesting.
It's like the prostate connection, right? It's in the anus for a man, and a lot of men have a lot of restrictions around that, and there's homophobia and all of these things, and it's a real thing. And then people don't think about it, but when you get 40, 50, right, it's a real thing. And if you don't have a good prostate health, you can die from it, right? So it really is a real thing. So I kind of noticed these things when it comes to body connection in general when I was a personal trainer. It feels like a lifetime ago now, but I had female clients coming from all ages. I think the youngest one was 18 that came to me, right? And wanted to work with the body. And it wasn't necessarily to gain muscles, anything like that. It was health-wise. They wanted to come to improve their health and that. But the male client, they would come in their mid-40s, their 50s, and, around there, because it takes longer usually back then for a man to come to that realization. Wow, I'm not invincible anymore. Things start to hurt. Things start to break down. I don't feel good. I don't have energy. Wow, I don't have drive. I'm doubting myself. I have a middle-age crisis. So the body starts to scream after a while. And that's many times when I noticed men would start to be interested in more, taking, okay, I'll start with some personal training and massage. Okay, we start from there, and then okay, maybe I breathe a little bit better, maybe, and then slowly going into the
focus
body
on the
awareness,
sleep, focusing on the diet, like the lifestyle.
biohacking
Yeah.
and nutrition, and yeah, you know, more tangible stuff like that. And then gradually, you know, sometimes they go more into the spiritual or emotional work, deep work.
Yeah. So we touched a little bit upon it when we talked about the TRE, but what would you say the nervous system, how connected would you say the nervous system is to the body connection?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, that kind of is the body connection, that you work with the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, the fascia, connection to the heart. You know, those are really the main ones: the nervous system, fascia, connection to the heart. Of course, you can feel your cardiovascular system, lymphatic system, but the nervous system is the gateway into body connection, right? Because if your body is not feeling safe, right? And you have to, like, this might sound strange if you haven't experienced this, but your body has its own consciousness, which is the autonomic nervous system or subconscious mind. And that's not what you're sitting and thinking. That's involuntary. So if you forget to breathe, your body's going to breathe anyway. Like, you don't have to think about your heartbeats or anything like that. That runs automatically for you. But if your body is feeling threatened, that's going to change. It's going to reduce certain functions, it's going to increase certain functions, and it's going to release more stress hormones to extract energy faster. And therefore, it's very important to have safety in your body, because when you have safety, it allows you to go in and connect to your body. If you don't have safety, it doesn't allow you to do so. And I mean, there's been a lot of wars, there's been poverties, there's been times where people can't sit around and connect to their bodies. Like, I need to move on, I have 5 kids, I have no money, there's scarce time, and all these things. So I think it's also intergenerational and cultural trauma. But when you're looking at the nervous system, it's really about safety. Am I safe enough to explore this and to be here? And once you feel that safety, yeah, then you can do it. But also knowing, when it comes to safety, being safe and feeling safe are two different worlds, right? You can know that you're safe somewhere, but it doesn't allow you to feel safe.
That's very interesting. You know, when we talk a lot about the feminine and the masculine polarities, and the fact that when the man is not in his heart space, the woman can feel it instantly in her nervous system. And that whenever the man comes into his heart space, the woman automatically feels safe. And that's such a profound, I mean, when I personally started to feel that, like when I could see the shift in you, like when you went from mind to heart, and also the other way around, I could feel like, or it's just, and our teachers have always said that if you're a man and you know these things and you are connected to yourself, you can see in the woman if you are in your mind or in your heart, because she will tense up when you're in the mind, and she will relax when you're in the heart. And I feel like I just love that dance, that we are able to connect like that, and that the man's, so that's why it's so important for me that you do the work, you know, because my healing is connected to your healing. And that's why they say like that the man is like the leader in the relationship, and you know, that it doesn't mean that he controls everything and that the women is submissive in that way. That's not what it means. It means that, for me, it means that when you do, the more work you do, the more grounded your nervous system is, and the deeper your heart connection is, the more my nervous system will be grounded, so my nervous system can heal, and that I can heal. And that's like my body follows your body, and that's why I feel like that's where the leadership aspect comes in for me, that it's so clear, so clear for me.
I think also when it comes to, I agree with you 100%, and that's a really big part, and that's why I feel, you know, relationships in general, healthy relationships, is so important for personal, spiritual development and well-being in general, right? And you know, we have different cycles in our bodies depending on what has happened to us and our biology and all of these things. But when it comes to the masculine holding space for the feminine, you know, the feminine has so much more cycles than what a man has, right? There's so many more cycles. There's a cycle every month. Like men have cycles too, but they're a lot shorter and they're not as strong as feminine ones. So a lot of it when it comes to holding space is it's usually easier if you don't have all these hormone not imbalances, but shifts, right?
Yeah.
That they kind of shift and they turn around. Of course, it's going to be easier to be on a, what you would say, more stable or more grounded side. So that's what I think also traditionally a big part of the man or the masculine polarity, to hold space as the feminine go through a lot of these shifts, right? And one of our teachers said it's kind of like an oak tree, right? I like that analogy, right? It's not always easy, right? Because you have your own stuff and it comes up, and sometimes you're tired and you're like, oh my God, I want to do this right now. But you know, that's the practice also.
What
And
do
I
you
think
say?
that is part of
Sometimes you don't want to do it.
it.
You don't want to hold the space. Is that what you're saying? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, you know, it comes up at times. At times you don't feel like doing things. At times you
Yeah,
feel
of course.
tired and your own stuff comes up and you're like, oh.
Especially if you hold space for everyone else during that's your work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a real thing. I heard Gabor Mate was talking about that, you know. When he was a medical doctor, he mentioned he was addicted to helping people. And he was helping everyone and he was feeling so good. He was getting these hard dopamine hits, and he came home and his wife challenged him like nothing else. She didn't buy anything. She didn't put him on a pedestal, and they clashed. And he was like, wow. And then he figured out what happened and he really started working for himself and he started sharing these things. And, you know, it's a real thing. You know, you can also live in an illusion where you're good at what you're doing and people praise you. And then you meet a partner that really wants the best for you and just like jabs at the weaknesses. And you can see it as, oh, this person is, you know, commonly word they say bitchy or aggressive or angry, all of these things. Yeah, but it's not true. It's a test. It's a test to see. And that's what the nervous system does when you start to understand that. The nervous system tests for weaknesses so that I can feel safe.
Yeah.
And if you see it in that way, it usually becomes easier.
I remember that you were so upset with me all the time because I was challenging you and testing you and, you know, questioning things. And you're like, oh, you're nagging. And I'm like, yes. Wow, this is awful. I don't want to be this person. And it's like, why? It's like, I don't get it. And then I remember you learned somewhere and you came home to me and like, that's not what it is. It's the challenge. It's the nervous system. Da, 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 da. And then one of our other teachers said the same thing. And then I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I can keep
But
on
I mean, that's
challenging.
really...
No, but I mean, it's different. Of course, it's not like, you know, asking the same thing, nagging. I mean, that's not healthy at all. But I think it's important to know where that comes from. If people are nagging, if the woman is or the feminine is nagging the masculine, that of course it can escalate and go, you know, way out of hand. But where it comes from is looking for safety. If the and that the thing that is one of the things that are super, super big in the masculine polarity, the core, is to say one thing and to keep the word, to follow through. And when the masculine doesn't do that, that's super unsafe for the feminine, and that's when she starts to check, you know.
Well, to tie it together, kind of, if you look at the polarities, it's magnetism, right? Plus minus poles. They attract each other, right? The opposite attracts. That's that's actually where it comes from. Opposites attract, like repel. It comes from magnetism. It might not be true. It might be super similar and you're still attracted to each other. But when it comes to the polarities, you cannot have the same polarity at the same time.
No.
Right? So, I mean, if I say for us, for instance, I mean, you're CEO in the company, you like to do a lot of these things. That would be like a masculine polarity when it comes to that. But in a relationship, that might be a different side. And it's important to kind of know in life that we can switch between the polarities where we're at.
Yeah.
But you can't have two people in the same polarity in a relationship because there will be fight.
Yeah.
And that ties into the body connection, right? There will be one that's fighting for leadership, another one will be fighting for leadership. And if your nervous system is doing that every day in your environment, in your career, and throughout your life, the body connection, especially for men, is that it's competitiveness, right? Moving forward. If I'm then meeting a woman that has the same polarity within me, of course, there is going to be conflict in that relationship. And that doesn't mean that the woman has to be submissive and budge to everything she does. No, that's just machismo. But it needs to be a balance, right? There needs, I mean, it's kind of like there's 3 leaders in the room saying 3 different things. It makes no sense. It will be very, very confusing for everyone.
It's not about that. It's about the constant battle. It's about the battle for safety. Because the reason why the woman is in the masculine from the first place is because she didn't feel safe at some point in her life. She didn't have the masculine, because the masculine represents safety. For the feminine to be able to be in her core, she needs to feel safe. And the masculine role in the society, in the village, in the wherever, in the family, is to provide that sense of safety on physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, energetical, all levels. And if that's not present, then the feminine energy starts to develop a masculine protection because it's not provided. So we also need to understand where that person is coming from. And I mean, I know because I had that massive masculine shield. And I mean, that was also a part of why you and I were fighting so much in our relationship. So, I mean, we've gone through this, like, for real. We've done this. It's no joke, and it's 100% real. And it was not pretty at times, you know, but that's why we also find it so interesting to deep dive into these things and see how it can help us. And I have to say that the solution for us was 2 things: nervous system and the polarities. That's what changed our relationship. Like okay, I'm turning my hand like a 180 if you're not watching.
Yeah, day and night.
Yeah, 180. And of course,
but that is body connection, 100%.
Yes.
Nervous system and polarities.
Yes. Polarity.
And like you say, leadership is really leading by example.
Yeah.
It's not forcing your way through. It's not you do this, you say that. Leadership, being the leader, is leading by example, that you are setting the tone by being an example and leading. And that is what creates the grounding and stability. It's kind of like we say in the theory training. If you're on the ocean in a ship and storm comes in and the ship goes like this and there's waves everywhere, everyone's going to panic and they're going to look at the captain. If the captain is there, oh, land crabs, hoist sails, or whatever they say. I don't know. It sounds like a pirate, but you know, either barge out orders. If they are calm and grounded, that regulates everyone's nervous system. And that's what we mean with the leadership from the male polarity. You lead by a grounded example, not with aggression or machismo.
not
Lead
telling
by.
people what to do. I mean,
No.
it's the same leadership in relationship. I mean, I work as a leader. I'm very passionate about leadership, and I also get a lot of compliments for my leadership. So I know I'm super interested in leadership. And so I know that leadership is not telling people what to do. Leadership is something completely different. It's about connecting, and I mean, it's tons of stuff. And it's the same thing in the relationship. But it's about the man being confident and assertive, and like not waving, like not being unsure. Oh, where is this going? And that's such a big part of it. Like, where is this relationship going? And like being grounded and stable, moving forward, knowing where to go, knowing what to do, and making sure that everyone's needs are taken care of, including the woman and including her emotional stuff, and all the things that she needs. So when the man is grounded like that, as you said, as the captain, as the oak tree, then everyone else will be.
And the gateway to that is the body connection.
Yeah, 100%.
So when the man connects to the body and starts to live from there, it's not just in a romantic relationship, just you being that way provides safety for the polarities, right?
Yeah. I mean, I
You
can
probably
see.
felt that there's
Yeah.
probably people you met that there's no connection, there's no chemistry, nothing like that. You just feel safe. This person got it under control. They're calm, they're stable.
Yeah.
I just feel safe. I don't know this person. We can't speak the same language. I'm just safe with this person.
Yeah. I mean, you can see the animals around here, how much they have grounded when you and Mark have done such profound, stepping into the masculine. And it's so cool to see. And also the way that you can hold space for the feminine, and the fact that you are so, that's such a big part of your purpose, to be able to hold space for the feminine, both you and Mark. And I mean, the way that you guys hold space for me, and that I feel like I don't have to do it all, and that I can really step into my feminine and evolve as both with my healing and my purpose, and to really step back, and be creative and be the visionary. So I'm like the vision. I'm the captain, but I'm the visionary captain. It's like I'm not by the oars or by the. It's like, yeah, I'm the visionary captain, and then you guys are like the grounding captains, so to speak.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I agree 100% with what you're saying. And I can see it, in you and animals and in general. And also we got a lot of female clients coming in, it's a different thing, when you start to feel safe somewhere, you get a model for it. You start to feel safe somewhere with the opposite sex, then you have that model in your head and you can find similar connections outside.
Yeah, because you know what it feels like. You know what it's supposed to feel like. The nervous system knows. And I feel like that is also a very, very good compass for the female clients that we have, to know what they should ask for, because that's the feminine also, like they need to ask clearly what they need. But if they don't, if they've never experienced it, it's yeah.
You confuse if someone is in the masculine core and you get all this information and this and this and this and that, it just confuses the mind. It's more binary, right?
Yeah.
But the thing when it comes to body connection, for me, it's very deeply rooted to my purpose, because it's really from there that I go into the energetical and spiritual and personal development and the coaching too, right? So massage was one modality that I did, and then I went in more to visionary, which is based on craniosacral work or craniosacral therapy, and you can go very deep tissue with the treatment, but you can also do almost like, feels like you're doing nothing. You're sitting and holding, like barely touching the person, and that subtlety can have so much profound changes in the person. But you need to be aware of what's going on in your body.
Yeah.
You can feel the changes when you're in contact with someone else. And that was the same in TRE. You need to have connection with your own nervous system and know it so well. So when someone comes in, you start to notice, there's something that's feeling a little bit off, and
Yeah.
that I can speak to that and I can guide other person. And when they feel more relaxed, I feel it relaxes in me too. So
Yeah.
that becomes the next step when you really go deeper into the connection, body connection. And I think, that's how we work now professionally, but I
Yeah.
think that's also how we were designed to do originally. And
Yeah.
I've kind of seen that growing up to some degree, because my father's from Dominican Republic, and it's kind of this: when someone is a little bit cranky, they're like, they poke them and they tease them a little bit and they explode and they're like, what's going on with you? But then they solve it, so the
Yeah.
person doesn't go around and just like, they kind of, that might not be the best way to do it, because you don't know what someone's carrying around, or like,
No, but they
there's
know
respect.
each other as family.
Yeah, but it's a way of interacting, and you feeling something's going on with someone.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of the body connection. And I think that's a big part of what men definitely can do, to take that role and go into your own body connection. Because when you prove that you can do that and you show it for others, that creates safety, and that leads the way. That becomes the leadership, because then
Yeah.
the woman feels safe to take a step back. Then other men feel safe to take a step back and connect to themselves. So that is what creates the leadership with the body connection, because you lead by doing the work yourself, and others see that, and then they feel safe with you.
Yeah.
And that's a positive spiral.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I think this was a
Right.
very interesting conversation. And if you want to, work with us to connect to the body, we have 3 different ways right now. So we have the Sacred Union, the relationship course based on the feminine and the masculine, coming up in February. But if you sign up now, we have an early bird out. So the Sacred Union is, it's not only for couples, it's for parents, friends, anyone who wants to learn more about the relationship aspects from a feminine and masculine energetical perspective. So that's an online, and there will be trainings and live coaching and home exercises and stuff. So it's a practical thing. So that's super interesting. I think that is going to be awesome. We work so much with it, and we're so devoted to the practice, and that's going to be so much fun. But if you want to connect to the body more deeply, we're relaunching our retreats and our mentorship programs. So we have campaigns for a while now, because we're relaunching everything. So there's new information on the website, livingwiththespirit.com. You can read all about it, but we're having a little bit of campaign. So if you feel like doing the deeper work with the body connection, you can come to the retreat, because that's exactly what it is. It's like body connection, nervous system, detox, and grounding. So we have a campaign where you can get that. If you book the retreat now, you can come whenever you want during 2024. And same thing with the mentorship. If you book it now, you can start later next year, but then you will still get the old price and but the new setup, old price. So that's the campaign that we have for a little bit of time now before we launch the new stuff on the next year. So the 6 months mentorship program, the Holistic Redesign and Mentorship program, is a 6-month commitment where you work from home, where we do all the somatic work, all the coaching, and there's different levels. So we're doing the deep work, but it's from home. So
Or from work.
from work, yeah. Yep. We're not going to say who, but we have some people that are doing very well working from work. Yeah, so that's the 3 options that you have working with us right now. I also gonna sneak launch, because I usually don't do any private sessions without my Ascension mentorship program, but I'm having some women at this time asking me for a shorter container with just 6 private sessions where I activate the feminine and the leading from a feminine core and connecting that to their purpose. So if that's interesting, that will only be open for about 10 days. So mid-November that will close. So if that's something that's interesting for you, then message me. And we always have we offer consultations always if you feel like working with us. But all of that is on the website, livingwiththespirit.com. And that's it for us today.
Thank you for following. And it's been a really wonderful conversation to have. And yeah, ask us any follow-up questions. Everything comes around this. And even if you have a big question, ask us. That might be some content that we put online, you know, because questions you ask, other people have as well. So feel 100%. Free to share.
Cool. Thank you, Simba.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.